Fox and Friends did a segment on $15 minimum wage. And of course, when Donald Trump was president, when some Republican states like Florida were suggesting $15 minimum wage, it was a great thing. But now that the Democrats are suggesting it as the federal minimum wage, people are taking issue with it. Let's watch their logical explanation for why $15 minimum wage is bad, and then we'll break down how it doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Here's the other argument that maybe things have changed a bit, and that is during the 2020 election down in Florida, Florida passed it by 60%. They have gone ahead and okayed the minimum wage at $15 an hour, and a majority of the people who voted for it also voted for Donald Trump. Brian?
That is great. That's states making decisions that work for them. And if they don't like that decision, they get voted out. People into the ballot box and do it. But I don't think that necessarily flies for Indiana. I don't think you can say what's going to happen for Oklahoma. That's not the way it was supposed to be.
But think about
and the other thing is at $7.25 an hour, that's an entry-level wage. What you do is you work your way up on that wage, and then if you, in the meantime, you do what almost everybody else has done in the past. You get another job to supplement as you work your way through. Even if it means going to school at night, you find a way. You don't ruin a business in order to I guess, get votes from people.
It's been a long time since there's been an increase. They do have to increase it. My concern is, though, 4 years is not a long time. To double it in 4 years if you own a restaurant.
Wages were going up, Ainsley, with the economy. As the economy grows, the wages were going up naturally, organically. You didn't need Bernie Sanders telling you what you should make, which is a scary proclamation, when the socialist is leading the charge.
Listen, I've got two members of my immediate family who are adults and who are heads of households are minimum wage employees, and they could use a raise during the pandemic. So ultimately, though, it's a math problem. You give the employee more money, then the business has to hire fewer people. You want to hire more people. It's just a math thing.
Okay, so before we even continue forward, it's funny how anytime they don't like a policy, they have to throw in the word socialist, and they almost always throw in AOC or Bernie Sanders. And they're like, oh, Bernie Sanders, we don't need socialist Bolshevik Bernie running things. Bolshevik Bernie is telling Joe Biden that people should actually get paid the living wage. Why would we ever listen to that? Isn't he ridiculous? Congratulations on making him the most popular senator in the entire United States of America. Because that's what you're doing. Like, nobody's gonna, maybe some old people, like the older people who watch Fox News, like boomers, or, I don't know, people who are TGFs, maybe right-wing TGFs, will fall for this. But the average person is not gonna look at this and say, oh my God, socialism, $15 an hour, socialism. Oh, this is hard. This is terrible. Oh no. Oh, we have to stop. We have to leave people at $7.25. $7.25. Yes, we'll stay at $7.25 forever. Nobody thinks like that. Absolutely nobody. And, oh my gosh, man, this type of stuff just drives me up the wall. And then listen to what the guy said at the end, right? The guy, I'm not sure what his name is, but he's like, oh, well, you know what you do? You do what everyone else does. You get 2 jobs. Instead of raising minimum wage, get 2 jobs. Like everybody else, even if you have to go to school at night, you make it happen. See? Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And even the woman in red looks at him and is like, well, I mean, yeah, we do have to raise it, though. It's been the same for 15 years. And then she goes on to say what her concerns are about it, but even the other 2 Fox hosts are looking at this guy like, okay, bro, you're a little ridiculous, right? So I don't know, the idea that raising minimum wage to $15 is a bad thing. It's just ridiculous. It's, there's no evidence there. The only thing they said is, all they could pull out of their ass was, states' rights. That you should let the states do it. This may not fly in Oklahoma. It's great for Florida, though. We love that Florida did it, but what about Oklahoma or Texas or other places? They should be allowed to set their own minimum wages, and the federal minimum wage shouldn't even be a thing. Matter of fact, everybody should work for free. That's a bit of an exaggeration there. But he's saying basically that, we shouldn't raise the federal minimum wage because of states' rights. Well, by that definition, we shouldn't have a federal minimum wage at all because of states' rights. People should be able to pay people 1 penny an hour, right? I mean, that's effectively what you're saying. Effectively, you're saying that there should be no federal minimum wage. But he won't come out and say that because that's an extremely unpopular position. And nobody agrees with that. So what he'll say is, states should determine whether they want to raise it or not. Which basically is saying that the federal government shouldn't regulate wages, which is totally unpopular. I mean, you could go all the way back to the 1920s and the 19-teens, and that would be an unpopular idea, okay? Extremely unpopular. So, of course, he can't come out and say that, so he tries to craft it in a way where it sounds like, I'm about states' rights and I'm a principled conservative. Libertarianism. Just stop it. Just stop. Okay. And the other point that the guy makes, he says, I would love to raise minimum wage to $15. I have a family member who's a minimum wage worker, but it's a math problem because if you raise minimum wage, then people will be unemployed. And if people will be unemployed, then you're exacerbating the problem. Okay, so number one, the last time minimum wage was raised, I believe it was raised from $3.25 an hour to $7.25 an hour. Now, I can't exactly remember if it was $3.25 or $3.75 or $4. I'm not sure. Because I was a very young child when the change happened. It's been $7.25 pretty much for most of my life. Like, I think since I was about 5 or 6. But last time they raised it, people said the exact same thing. Oh my God, there's going to be an uptick in unemployment. People are going to lose their jobs. You're going to starve companies out of business. What happened? Absolutely none of that happened. Okay? That did not happen. Everyone was fine. Most businesses were fine. There was not an uptick in unemployment. Everything stayed the same. Also, too, if you look at a country like Australia, and actually Kyle Kalinske, shout out to him, pointed this out on his channel earlier. Australia's minimum wage is comparable to a $15 minimum wage. And they have about the same unemployment rate that we have. So, if raising minimum wage to $15 an hour inherently will shoot up your unemployment rate, Australia's unemployment rate should be way higher than ours, but it's not. Now, I will say, this doesn't mean that unemployment won't go up a little bit. There is a possibility that unemployment will go up a little bit, but we'll have to deal with those problems. But if I have to choose between, possibly a few people becoming unemployed versus letting all poor people in poverty just make starvation wages. I mean, to me, the choice is clear. The choice is clear. And also, if that person does become unemployed because their job can't afford to pay them $15 an hour and they're paying them, let's say, $8 an hour, well, guess what? They're going to be unemployed, right? They're going to be out of work. But when they get another job, they'll be paid more money, $15 an hour. Not that I want people to be unemployed. I don't. No one wants people to be unemployed. But, I mean, statistics show that raising wages at this rate does not affect employment very much, if at all. And, like I said, even if they do become unemployed, when they do eventually find employment, again, they will be getting paid higher wages. Also, too, they're like, 4 years is way too quick for this to happen. You're doubling the minimum wage in 4 years? How is that too quick? How is that too quick? It's not fast enough. We're in a pandemic. We should be doing it really effective immediately. Now, I understand you can't do it effectively immediately because you do have to give businesses time to adjust and stuff. And I think like a couple years is reasonable. Now, 4 years, I thought was too much. And actually, I had heard it was 5 years, really. So it was by the end of 2025 is what I heard. I'm not sure. Maybe that was incorrect. Maybe it was supposed to be January 2025. But 4 to 5 years, that's a lot of time, man. That's a lot of time. So people won't even start to see this money until that time. And another thing too, most of the companies that pay minimum wage to their workers are companies like Walmart, for instance, like big corporations. And Walmart, actually, it came out a couple years ago when they were starting off around $8 an hour, that they could raise all the price of all their products by 3 pennies and afford to pay their workers $15 an hour. Now, they didn't do that, of course. They did eventually, after some pressure, raise their starting wage to $10 an hour nationwide, which is not enough, but it was better than before. I actually knew some people who were working at Walmart for $8 an hour, so $10 was an improvement, but that was like 10 years ago. It's now 2021. So in 2021, $10 is not enough. It wasn't enough back then, but it's certainly not enough now. So these big corporations hire the most minimum wage workers. They can afford to pay people $15 an hour. Now, some people might say, and this is the last point, well, yeah, some businesses will go out of business if they have to pay $15 an hour. And what I will say is this. I'm sorry. I love small businesses. I support a lot of small businesses in my community. But if you cannot afford to pay your workers $15 an hour, if you can't afford to pay them a living wage, you should not be in business. You should go out of business. I'm sorry. You guys love the free market so much. Well, guess what? If you can't pay the federal minimum wage and you're not profitable, then the free market says, sorry, dude, you're going to have to start another business, or you're going to have to become a wage worker like everybody else, because this ain't working out for you. That's how the free market works. So people love the free market until the government says, okay, we need to raise our minimum wage. Oh my God, these people won't be able to compete. We should lobby for businesses to keep the minimum wage down where it is now. Are you kidding me? That's not free market. You guys love free market capitalism. Well, guess what? If you can't pay your employees and make a profit, you go out of business. That's free market capitalism for you. Now, for me, I want a social democratic society where we mix capitalism with a social welfare system. So, do I believe, like, for instance, during a pandemic, we should just let all these small businesses go out of business? No, of course I don't. Of course I don't believe that. But I will say, if you love the free market so much, then you shouldn't be whining about people going out of business, because, quite frankly, if you can't make a profit in the free market, sorry, man, you're going out of business, right? But, Fox loves the free market until it affects, big corporations or businesses. Then all of a sudden, we need a social welfare system for the businesses. But anyway, I digress. So, yep, that's what's going on. And, I covered it in my other video earlier. If you haven't got a chance, check that out. By the way, too, not to sound thirsty, but a lot of you guys view this, but don't like and subscribe. So like and subscribe, man. Got a lot of good content coming for you. But, yeah, if you look at my video earlier, it appears that we will get a $15 minimum wage through budget reconciliation, because Joe Biden has finally showed a backbone and has said to Republicans, nope, you cannot manipulate our bill. You will not be changing our bill, and you can vote with us or vote against us, but we don't need you to get this passed, and we won't. So $15 minimum wage is on the way, whether Fox and Friends likes it or not, and they're just going to have to deal with it. Oh, and by the way, he's saying wages are naturally, I felt the need to touch on this, I'm sorry. He said wages are naturally going up as the economy grows. Wages are not going up as the economy grows. That's a lie. Wages have been stagnant since the 1980s. Stagnant, adjusted for inflation. Minimum wage, the original minimum wage, like $1.50 adjusted for inflation today, is like $22 an hour. Wages have not been going up. You could say, oh, well, there's been an increase in wage. Adjusted for inflation, wages have stayed stagnant. So, give me the talking point like, oh, well, 10 years ago, the average person was getting $11. Now they're getting $13. Wages are going up. Wages have been stagnant for a long time. And to be honest, $15 minimum wage is not enough to deal with the problem of stagnant wages. We really need to raise our wages up to like $23 an hour just to have it adjusted for inflation to have a raise at all. I mean, if you want to go by inflation, you could argue that wages have actually been going down. So yeah, that's it. I'm done. Like I said, whether Fox and Friends likes it or not, $15 minimum wage will be happening by 2025.